Uh, uh,
Welcome to the Holistic Kid Show. My name is Zane.
My name's Abdullah.
And my name is Imad.
We're the Holistic Kids here to educate us kids from the inside out. We're on summer break, but school is just around the corner.
What do you have to talk about? School is so stressful.
Well, maybe we could use this time to learn how to manage stress, specifically with this something you were actually doing right this very moment.
How'd you know I was eating a cucumber? How is that going to
No,
help?
I was talking about something that is right behind, like under you. Your breath.
So how can we use our breath to lower stress? I mean, that doesn't really make much sense, right?
Actually, your breath is very powerful and can help us kids stay healthy.
But how?
This is exactly why we were so excited to talk to Dr. Sachin Patel. Is that how you say your name?
It is. Thank you. Well done.
So we can really have the tools we need to make sure when school starts, we are equipped for managing stress at school and at home.
Dr. Sachin Patel is a functional medicine practice success coach, speaker, best-selling author, and breath work facilitator. Dr. Sachin founded the Living Proof Institute and coaches hundreds of practitioners all around the world. He also thank you, Dr. Sachin. We are so incredibly honored, and we know that you are incredibly busy as well. So we are so honored you can join us today.
So on.
So honored.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And, one thing I've learned over the years is you're never too busy to be of service. So this is my pleasure. And thank you for helping me serve and help people in a capacity that we all need it. As you kindly mentioned, Zane, the answers many times are right under our noses. And when we're talking about breathing, that's definitely the case. So very pertinent conversation, very relevant to people of all ages. But as we'll learn today, the younger we can start learning about how to breathe better, we can literally change the trajectory of the way we look, the way we feel, and the way we function.
And that's amazing.
That is amazing.
Amazing.
But so what drove you to do all of these amazing things that you're doing?
We would love to know your story.
Well, I started off originally trained as a chiropractor. And in chiropractic philosophy, what we learn is that your body is built in the image of perfection. And that might sound familiar from religious texts, but that's a belief that I carry with me everywhere I go, is that I'm built in the image of perfection, and I have 70 to 100 trillion cells in my body that are coordinating function at any given moment, performing 1 septillion processes at the exact same time. So we're a walking, breathing, living, smiling, laughing miracle. And when we look at life through that lens, we start realizing that kind of the way we approach healthcare these days, we have it completely backwards, because we assume the body is broken. And that's kind of like blaming a car for the car accident. It's never the car. It's usually not the car's fault. It's usually the driver's fault. And so if our body has the image of perfection, and the key is, how do we learn to treat it like a temple? And how do we create the right environment for it to thrive in so that we can function at our best? And that's a different question than, how am I going to get rid of your heartburn, or how am I going to get rid of your pain, right? That has nothing to do with optimal function. That just has to do with bringing people back to baseline. And I believe that, I have a young son myself. He's 14. And I want to live in a world where people don't wait to get sick before they learn how to get healthy. I want to live in a world where kids your age and even younger know how to be healthy from the very beginning, because that's how I feel we can actually change humanity and create a proactive society when it comes to health instead of a reactive society. And so that's what inspires me. And along the way, I've picked up several modalities, including learning about plant medicines, learning about breathing and breath work, learning about functional medicine. And so over the years, I just have accumulated different skill sets that interest me at different phases of my life, and I amalgamate them together to try to create a comprehensive solution for my clients.
Wow.
And I love how you said that a lot of people, they only wait until they get sick to improve themselves. And we see that so much around in this world, right? A lot of the experts we actually speak to only became experts to help heal themselves. Even our mom, only once she became sick did she try to become a better, improve her health.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That happens. It's often the case. and it doesn't have to be that way. And one thing I want to make sure I get across here, and Imad, I'm sorry if I interrupted you, but I'll say this and I'll let you go, is that we live in a society where the focus is prevention, right? So some people will say, I'm trying to do this to prevent cancer, or I'm doing this to prevent heart disease, or I'm doing this to prevent diabetes. There's over 10,000 different diagnoses that you could give to somebody. So how many different diets are going to have to prevent all these different conditions, right? It just mathematically it just doesn't make sense. Instead, what if we thought of a health creation strategy, right? So instead of trying to prevent disease, because whatever we think of, we actually give more energy to. So if I say, don't think about an elephant, well, guess what? You're thinking of an elephant now. You weren't thinking of an elephant 5 minutes ago or 5 seconds ago, but now you are, even though I told you not to. So when we say I'm preventing cancer, then all you think about is cancer or heart disease. All you think about is heart disease. So you're giving that more energy. And so just like in a GPS, you wouldn't put all the places you don't want to go, hoping you end up where you want to get to. You would put exactly where you want to go. And then every turn you make, there's no emotion attached to it because you know that this is my exact destination. Whereas if you're living from a preventive model, you're living in constant fear. And every decision you make, because the endpoint is the disease, every decision you make is fought with uncertainty, which is then charging the emotion associated with that condition. So just changing, when we understand how the brain works, we understand how important the way we think about our health is. And that's really the first thing that has to change, is the paradigm through which we look at health, because then all the decision making becomes so much easier because you take the negative charge and emotion out of it, and you only think in positive terms. So I thought I'd share that. And Imad, what was your question for me, my friend?
Every day we breathe around about 22,000 times. Our lungs are incredibly fundamental to the functional human body. But how does that impact our health?
Well, in so many ways. So if we go back to being born in the image of perfection, let's take a quote from Leonardo da Vinci, who said the ultimate sophistication is simplicity. And Steve Jobs, who founded the Apple company, basically echoed that, and he said that the greatest sign, the ultimate sophistication, is simplicity. So the body's kind of the same way, right? The body is the ultimate, most sophisticated equipment that we're aware of. I mean, every year we do more and more research about the human body, which means we actually know less and less and less every year. It's kind of a paradox, right? If we knew more, we'd be doing less research, not more research. So we're trying to, as a society, as a medical community, trying to match the complexity of the body. And the body is just kind of laughing back at us because we don't need to match its complexity. We just need to honor its sophistication. And therefore, if we do that, then we understand that the solutions are simple. So if I was designing a human body, I would do something like breath and use the breath to fuel and facilitate every other system in the body. So when we breathe, we generally think of breathing as something that we do to get more oxygen into our bodies. But breathing is so much more than that. Try smelling without breathing. Try talking without breathing, right? We can't do any of those things. Mm-hmm. And every time we take a breath, those 20 to 23,000 breaths a day, our diaphragm moves up and down. As it's moving up and down, it's pumping our lymphatic system in our abdomen. So now our abdomen is gently getting pumped. So the lymph and the waste products that are produced in the abdomen are now being pumped. So the biggest lymph nodes in our body are underneath the diaphragm, which makes sense. The diaphragm is also referred to as the second heart. And that means as the diaphragm moves up and down, it's actually assisting the cardiovascular system in pumping blood, because our lungs expand and contract with each breath, and our diaphragm moves up and down with each breath. So we're also assisting the circulatory system. Now, the reason we breathe is not only to deliver oxygen to the mitochondria, which is the only place in the body we use it, but we mainly breathe, and the urge to breathe comes from not being tolerant to the CO2 that's building up in our body. So when you feel like taking a deep breath, or when you feel like breathing, or you feel like you're losing your breath, it's only because you're intolerant to CO2, not because you need more oxygen. In fact, you only absorb about 20% of the oxygen that you take in with each breath.
Is there a right way to breathe and a wrong way to breathe?
Well, of course there is. So we want our breath to match our circumstance or what we're trying to accomplish. So if I was trying to fall asleep, I would breathe a different way. If I was trying to run away or run a race, I would breathe in a different way. If I was trying to meditate, I would breathe in a different way. So we want to breathe in a way that matches what we're trying to accomplish. And one of the things that I've done for my clients is I've created a guide. So if you want to have more energy, breathe a certain way. If you want to feel more relaxed, you would breathe a certain way. But if you're unconsciously breathing in a way that would increase your stress levels or increase your fight or flight response, and you want to feel relaxed, you're going to feel like something's wrong. And you could easily manipulate your breath, which means you could choose how deep you breathe. You could choose how long you inhale, how long you exhale, whether you hold at the top, hold at the bottom, whether you breathe in through your right nostril or left nostril, whether you breathe in through your mouth or your nose. There's so many ways that you can manipulate your breath that aligns with what you're trying to accomplish. If I had to pick a right or wrong or a binary answer for this, the right way to breathe is to breathe through your nose as much as possible. The incorrect way to breathe is to unconsciously breathe through your mouth. So, as much as possible, we should be breathing through our nose. When we're exerting ourselves physically, if we're lifting weights or exercising, playing basketball, sprinting, then we would perhaps breathe through our mouth in those instances. But we're always coming back to in and out through our nose. And the slower we breathe, the better. The more relaxed we'll feel, the more present, grounded, and centered we'll feel. And slowing down our breath is actually the fastest way to slow down the aging process as well. So there's so many benefits to simply slowing down your breath.
So how can we implement this kind of breathing into our lives?
Well, let's go through maybe how you should be breathing perhaps 99% of the day. Okay. So first things first, I want you all to understand that the tongue is a very important muscle. And we might take it for granted, but it plays a very important role in our body. Pound for pound, it's one of the strongest muscles in our body. So, interesting fun fact there. It's one of the fastest healing
Cool.
tissues in our body. So it heals faster than most other tissues in the body. It's very heavily innervated with blood supply. Our tongue allows us to talk and articulate. Our tongue also allows us to taste food. Okay. Our tongue also allows us to seal our mouth and swallow our food. So it has, several important functions, but there's two functions that it has that we may not always think about. One is that it's a postural muscle. So your tongue actually holds the front of your head up, which means that if your tongue is not held in the correct position, you're going to feel more tension in your neck and in your shoulders. Okay. So one of the easiest ways to alleviate chronic neck tension is to put your tongue in the roof of your mouth. That'll relax the muscles in the back of the neck, and the front of your face is going to be held up by your tongue and supported by your tongue. And even just taking just a couple of 100 grams off of pressure off will take pounds of pressure off the neck. Okay. The other thing that the tongue does is it acts as a spacer. So when the tongue is correctly positioned in the roof of the mouth, it pushes our jaw forward and outwards. Okay. So our mandible, our upper palate rather, that hard bone that you feel in the top of your mouth, that palate actually expands as we grow. However, if our tongue is in the bottom of our mouth, there's nothing pushing that palate outwards, which means that children and who end up being adults are born or are then developing very narrow airways. So the more narrow your airway is, the more narrow your dental arch is, the more crowding you're going to have of your teeth. And what that leads to for a lot of people, it leads to them having their teeth pulled. And this is how my journey in breathing and facial structure came to be, because my son, when he went to the dentist said he has overcrowding of his upper teeth. We're going to have to pull a couple of teeth out. And again, if we're born in the image of perfection, then we're not born with too many teeth or too little teeth. We're born with the right number of teeth. So I started asking the question, what would cause this shift to take place, and it turns out that he was a mouth breather. And so his tongue was not sitting in the roof of his mouth, so his upper palate didn't form correctly, which meant his teeth were crowded. And so we put a palatal expander and changed his tongue positioning, started taping his mouth closed at night, teaching him how to breathe correctly. And now his facial structure has changed. He didn't have to have any teeth pulled. All his teeth came in, and he's going to have a beautiful dental arch and a beautiful smile because of it. So I think that, the positioning of the tongue is very overlooked as well. So we're going to breathe with the tongue in the roof of our mouth. Okay. Now, your tongue, interestingly enough, is also connected to your toes. There's a tissue in our body called fascia.
Wow.
And fascia is basically like a saran wrap that goes around all of your tissues. And it connects every single cell nucleus to one another. So your body is constantly communicating from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes through this fascial system. Okay. And I would encourage you boys to look up the fascial system. It'll completely blow your mind. The thing that's interesting about the fascia is that it connects all of our tissues. And so there's a piece of connective tissue in the bottom of your tongue, which if I show you, you'll see.
Oh, that's what that is.
Okay. So that's called a frenulum. Now, in some people, that frenulum is going to be very prominent, which means that it's going to be hard for them to get their tongue in the roof of their mouth.
Mm.
And so they end up with a small, narrow airway, and then it's hard for them to breathe through their nose, so they become mouth breathers. Okay. So first things first, tongue in the roof of the mouth.
I got it.
Next thing we're going to do is we're going to breathe in through our nose. When we breathe in through our nose, a few things happen. One, the inside of our nose cleanses the air. So you have a mucosal membrane, which is a gooey membrane that traps particles that come into the nose. You pressurize the air, so you actually get 20% more oxygen to the lungs. You temperature regulate the air, so you make the temperature the right temperature for the lungs. Otherwise, if it's hot or cold air coming in, that's going to be very, it's going to cause you to cough or reject the air. It moisture regulates the air. So if the air is dry, it's going to add moisture to it. If the air is moist, it's going to dehumidify it. It also assists in killing any bacteria. So the lining of our nose produces something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide kills viruses and bacteria and pathogens on contact. So our immune system actually starts in our nose. The purpose of our nose is to slow down the air, pressurize the air, cleanse the air, and perfect the air before it goes into our lungs. When somebody breathes through their mouth, the dirtiest part of the body is actually our mouth. So if you talk to any microbiologist, maybe you've had Karan Krishnan on here before, he will tell you that the dirtiest part. Yeah. So he would tell you that the dirtiest part of your body is your mouth, which means that if we breathe through our mouth, now the air is getting dirty. It's picking up bacterial particles and all that stuff that doesn't belong in our lungs. And that's going into our lungs, compromising our immune system, because our lung also has a microbiome. So breathing through our nose is one of the first steps in better health. It instantly creates more energy, instantly reduces inflammation, because now we're not putting all that dirty air into our lungs, causing our body to have to work extra hard just to maintain normal function.
Mm.
The next thing we want to do is we want to time our breath. So tongue at the roof of the mouth, sipping air in through the nose for a count of 6, and then exhaling for a count of 6 as well. Now, for you guys, you have smaller lungs than a fully grown adult. Abdullah looks like a young man, but you boys have some growing to do, and so your lungs will expand and grow, which means for you, it might be 4 seconds instead of 6 seconds. But when you start breathing this way, you're going to instantly know that you're more present, you're more calm, your heart rate is going to naturally decrease, your heart rate variability is going to increase, and you're going to instantly go into a healing state. Now, think of the opposite way of that breath, right? So the exact opposite of breathing that way would be how I would be breathing if I was running away from something, or if I was having a panic attack, right? I would be breathing in and out through my mouth. I'd be like, right? So when I breathe like that, that's a stressful type of breathing. And of course, there's going to be a spectrum of 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out to, barely being able to breathe through my mouth. So we have to decide where on that spectrum we want to be, right? Do we want to be in maximum fight or flight, or do we want to be in maximum relaxation, and find somewhere in between based on the activity that we're trying to do? So if you're trying to relax and calm down, slow down your breath. If you want to, rapidly get from point A to point B by running or jogging, then think about this for a second. Not only do we need more oxygen to do that, but every time our lungs are rapidly expanding and contracting, it's assisting our heart in pumping blood as well, right? Because our heart has to get that blood from our chest to our arms and legs. When we are relaxed, then the blood is mostly going to our liver, our kidney, our digestive system, and reproductive organs. But as soon as we shift into fight or flight and we have to run away, our lungs are going to start kicking in because of that rapid breathing, and it's going to start helping us pump that blood to our arms and legs. So you see how brilliant our breathing apparatus is. It does so many things besides just, help us with oxygenating our tissue.
That is so amazing.
That is amazing.
All right, Ahmad, because the breathing literally changes how we work. Like, we breathe slowly, then we're more relaxed. But if we breathe more, we're more active, right?
Yep, exactly. But here's the beauty is you can choose how you breathe. So you have, just like Imad said, we have 22,000 breaths every day. Those are literally, and a third of those you take while you're sleeping. So let's call it, you have 15,000 active breaths a day, or, when you're, conscious. And so you have 15,000 opportunities each day to, check in with your body. And every breath is a fork in the road, which you get to decide, do I want to be in a fight or flight state, or do I want to be in a healing, rest, repair, and regenerate state? Like, that opportunity is available to everyone with every breath that we take.
So basically, we have more control over our bodies than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Way more control, right? And this is just one system, right? There's other systems that we have, like breathing, that are just as simple and just as profound. So if what I'll tell people who are listening to this, if your doctor gives you a complicated solution, then they will never fix you, because the solution is never to match the body's complexity. The solution is to honor its sophistication. And just like a car, right? When I'm driving a car, I don't need to know how all the parts of the car work. I just need to know a few basic things, right? The accelerator is on the right, the brakes are on the left. When I turn the wheel this way, the car goes this way. When I turn it this way, it goes this way. So, the sophistication is taken care of, right? And that's what makes it simple. But if I had to know like every single component of the car to be able to turn it on and drive it, that's not very sophisticated. So just like a plant, you can grow a huge oak tree and all you need is some dirt, sunlight, and water, right? Our bodies are the same way. We don't actually require very much, but we require very specific things. And they're very much in our control if we allow them to be.
Wow, you are so inspiring.
So inspiring. So there are so much different types of breathing techniques, like 4-5-4-4-4-4, or boxing breathing, or 4-7-8, and you talked about 6-6. How do we know what would be best for us?
Yeah, great question. So again, it's going to be based on what you want to do. So the 4-4-4-4 box breathing, and you can have boxes that are 2 seconds long, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. Essentially what we're doing with with box breathing is, imagine a box, and you inhale for the count of 4. In this case, you hold for a count of 4, you exhale for a count of 4, and hold for a count of 4. So this style of breathing is going to help us increase our parasympathetic tone. Anytime we lengthen the exhale, so we're only inhaling for a total of 4 seconds, but we're exhaling for a total of 12 seconds, right? So you're holding for 4, releasing for 4, and then holding on empty for 4. So the full exhale after the end of the first breath is 12 seconds. Anytime we lengthen the exhale, which is the breath out, we're going to put our bodies into a more relaxed state. Okay. The 4-7-8 breathing, this was developed by Dr. Andrew Weil. And basically this breath is to help you fall asleep faster. So in this case, we have a 4-second inhale and a 15-second exhale. right? So 4 seconds in, 7 plus 8 is 15. So again, we're kind of lengthening that exhale, putting our body into a state of relaxation. The 666 breathing is, or 6-6 breathing rather, is where we have an equal inhalation and equal exhalation. So this is where we're going to feel balanced, and we call this coherence breathing. What happens when you practice coherence breathing is your heart and your brain become connected, and in that state, we're going to do our best work. When our heart and brain are in connection with each other, that's when we're going to be most creative. That's where we're going to be best at problem solving. That's when we're going to be the best listeners. That's when we're going to have the best responses if we're asked a question. So that's a state I always try to be in whenever I draw my attention to my breath, because, throughout the day, that's the level I want to function in.
So, and I think you're mentioning that for the 6-6 is for kids, it's 4-4, right?
Yeah, so it's whatever's really, there's ways to test this. You can use a heart math device, which clips to your ear to really figure out exactly what that number is for you. But we don't want it to be uncomfortable, right? We don't want you to feel like, oh my God, like this is so hard for me, because that's going to create more of a stressful state. So you can play around with 2-2-2, then 3-3-3-3, then 4-4-4-4. So work your way up and find what breathing pattern makes the most sense for you. Generally speaking, the smaller your lungs are, right, you're going to need to breathe a little bit more often. So find that pace that works for you. But the general concepts are, the longer we exhale, the more we go into relaxation. If we want to feel balanced, then we would balance the inhale and the exhale.
How many times should we be taking deep breaths in our day?
Great question. So your average breath is only about 10 to 15% of your lung capacity. So your lung capacity is usually about 5 liters in a fully grown adult. Some people can expand that. And so you breathe in only about 500 milliliters of air with every breath. Okay. Fun fact for you boys, you breathe in 30 pounds of air every day. So you actually breathe in, you take in more air, and you obviously expel it as well. But you actually consume more air than anything else. Yeah, we only eat a couple of pounds, maybe 1 or 2 pounds of food, but we consume 30 pounds of air. So again, just highlighting how important the system is. And with each breath we take, there's more molecules of oxygen than grains of sand on the entire planet. So there's literally, imagine every grain of sand in the entire planet moving in and out of your body with every breath you take. Okay. Now, the number of deep breaths you take, which is a question you asked, is really going to depend on you. So one of the things that I like to do is, if you're shifting gears, so if you're going from fight or flight to rest and digest, you may have to use your deep breath techniques in order to shift into that relaxation state faster, right? But I would say it's probably a good idea to take a few deep breaths in the morning. Probably a good idea to take a few deep breaths before every meal, because that's when we want to be in a relaxed state, and a few deep breaths to kind of end our day. So get them in there. You can't overdo it. I mean, unless you're taking a deep breath with every breath, then you probably get institutionalized if you did that. But periodically throughout the day, as you're shifting gears, it's probably a good idea to slow down and take a few deep breaths.
So, what is one thing we kids can add deep mindful breathing to our daily routine?
Well, I think the most important thing is, you want to try to make breathing something that you do and draw awareness to constantly. So, I'll ask each of you, what's the thing you think of the most each day?
Food. I'm kidding.
It's okay. There's no judgment of what the answer is. I'm just curious. So for some people, it's their phone, right? They think of their phone, they think of their email, they think of their spouse, they think of their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their mom, their dad. So I want you to identify something that you think of often throughout the day. And then I want your next thought to be your breath. Okay. So what that's going to do is, like, the average person thinks about their phone a couple of 100 times a day. And if all they do is they piggyback the thought of their phone with their breath, now they have a couple 100 times a day, perhaps more for some people, that now they're tapping into their breath. And they can choose with that next breath, Am I breathing correctly for the environment that I'm in and the task that I'm trying to accomplish? And if they're not, that's the first thing that they can change that will create the fastest shift in their body. And they can control that. So, my encouragement to everyone is to add the way you add breathing into your daily routine is you think of it often. So, attach it to something you think of often, and then just ask yourself, am I breathing for the task that I'm trying to accomplish? If it's at bedtime, are you breathing nice and slow, lengthening your exhales? If you want more energy, are you breathing a little bit faster, right? Just pay attention to, is my breath matching my task? So that's the recommendation I would have for most people in terms of how to incorporate it into your daily routine. And the second thing I would encourage you boys to do, and get your mom's permission around this, is to tape your mouths at night. So you just simply place a piece of tape just like this over your mouth, and it keeps your mouth closed at night. You can get a different type of tape. It's called myo tape, which goes around your mouth. So you can still talk and breathe through your mouth if you want to, but it'll keep your mouth closed while you're sleeping. What that'll do is it will keep your tongue in the correct position, ensure that you're breathing in and out through your nose while you're sleeping. And that way, at least the 7,000 to 8,000 breaths you take at nighttime are perfect breaths of air. And you'll wake up refreshed. You'll have amazing dreams at night. You won't have to wake up to use a bathroom. So many benefits of just simply breathing through your nose that you can get from just taping your mouth with a piece of surgical tape that costs literally pennies every day.
Oh wow, that's so empowering.
Mm-hmm. Just some tape that can help you do all that. So where can we learn about you and your amazing work? And thank you so much for your time and wisdom today. It was so powerful.
So powerful.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for being such great hosts. Well, you can go to, if you want some tools on breathing, you can go to www.breathworkwithsachin. And that will take you to a simple page where you can enter your email address and name. And I've created a whole bunch of tools and resources that dive a little bit deeper into what we talked about today. PowerPoints, I'm happy to share those with everyone. I also have some guides that I've created. I created a stop snoring guide. I created a breathe like this, not that guide, which has a chart that shows you exactly how to breathe in every moment. And so you can download that, and it's all absolutely free. And if they want to learn more about working with us in a clinical capacity, they can go to www.becomeproof.com and learn more about our programs. And of course, they can find me on Instagram at the Sachin Patel as well.
Thank you again, Dr. Sachin. Now let's recap Dr. Sachin's key points.
We have 70 to 100 trillion cells in our body. We are a walking, breathing, smiling miracle. In medicine, we assume the body is broken, but we are not broken. Our bodies aren't broken. Don't wait until you are sick so that you can become healthy. Take advantage of your health. We breathe in 30 pounds of air every single day, which is crazy. And we consume more air than anything else. So breathing is so important.
You want to breathe in a way that can help you accomplish what you want. Breathe through your nose as much as possible. The slower we breathe, the better.
When you breathe, make sure your tongue in the roof of your mouth. Breathe in through your nose. That will help clean.
Temperature regulate the air, and moisture regulates the air and perfects the air. Then time your breathe inhale for 6 and exhale for 6. That'll help us to become more calm, present, and instantly put us in a healing state.
Because remember, you have over 15,000 opportunities in the day to decide how you want your day to go, just through breath. Take a few deep breaths in the morning, before every meal, and at the end of the day. Slow down and take a deep breath. Think about what you are thinking about. Think about what you are thinking about the most, and attach that with your breath. That will create the fastest shift in your body. Try even mouth taping to make sure you are only nose breathing at night, so you have quality breathing when you sleep. Don't try to tape your sister or brother's mouth during the day, even though they might know you. And thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Patel.
And
My
you-
pleasure. Please call me Sachin. It's been my absolute honor. Boys, you're such a great inspiration. Keep up the great work. And I've been paying attention to how you've been breathing, and you've all been nasal breathing. So your mom has taught you well. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
My
So
pleasure.
thank you for everyone for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zansari.
Abdullah.
And I'm Imad.
Follow my family and I and Sick Mom D, and look out for our next book, for our next book coming out in 2025, The Teen Health Revolution. And our mom is also working on her 8th book, and I'm doing the illustrations. So stay tuned. Kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast in iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to work together to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of Let's Take a Show. We're kids, our prime kids.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.